Have you ever wanted to be rock solid in your relationships? Have you ever wanted to have that ability to be completely stable and secure and like a rock, and that no matter what people think of you, no matter what criticism you get, as long as you don't want it, you are stable. You are stable in your self-esteem that doesn't topple off, and you have that unflinching sense of purpose. And if people think badly of you or people are gossiping about you, which is, sometimes happens, it's not very common, by the way. And when that happens, can you stay your ground? And have you ever wanted that ability to talk to anyone, anywhere, and take rejection and take criticism without letting it get under your skin? And if you want that, then you want self-esteem. And in this video, we're going to go into self-esteem and I'll talk about my personal views on this. So the first point I want to convey, if you want to build your self-esteem, is this, which is identity and outcome are interlinked. The way I phrase it is identity follows and precedes outcome. I'm going to put this graph again here. So what that shows is identity on the top and outcome on the bottom, and there's this cycle between them. Most people think that your self-esteem, which is your identity, only builds when you achieve certain outcomes. So they think that, if I want to have high self-esteem, then I must win that race that I'm participating in, or I must excel in my grades or my class, or I must give that perfect speech in my job. But those outcomes are like the final victory lap. But the thing is, those outcomes happen relatively rarely, and in order to get to those, people think that you're just going to feel shit until that, and then suddenly when you get that outcome is when you go oh, now I have high self-esteem. And then they might feel good for a day or two, and then it goes back down again. And so the key lesson here is to understand that it goes the other way around as well. Not only does outcome inform your identity, not only do you feel better self-esteem once you achieve something, but it can go the other way around as well, which is you can have a strong identity, a strong mindset, and a strong view of yourself, aka self-esteem, and that can lead to outcome. So you can work on your identity directly, and that will actually lead to better achievement. I was giving this interview, and because I knew I was absolutely good at the job that I was doing, they were like, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap the interview? And I said something like, dude, I'm built for this job, or this is something that I've studied all my life. I'm not just going to talk about these things. It was a psychology-based thing, by the way. And I was like, I've trained in this. I've taken the best training in this. And that confidence and that sense of certainty, I could see in their eyes that their pupils expanded and they were all zoned in. No one has said that with that much level of confidence. And that's because my identity around that area was extremely strong. Now, I don't think you should just build identity and never worry about competence. Obviously, work on competence. But there will be some people who are probably equally qualified in that interview who may not have had that identity of deserving that thing. They may not have had that self-esteem there. And so it is possible to work on identity directly. And the way you do it, by the way, if you're wondering, is you can journal about this. So you could write, I am blank. So for the longest time when I was working on social anxiety, I used to get up in the morning and I used to say look, I'm courage, I'm courage, I'm courage. You could say I'm strength, I'm love, whatever you think you resonate with, you can work on that and you can write those affirmations in a journal. But an even better way of doing it is to actually use your body and make gestures around it. So if you say I'm courage, you might want to thump your chest or do that or something like that. And you could be like, I'm courage. Or you could be like, I'm love and I'm gratitude. It doesn't have to be loud necessarily, but you could infuse your body in it. And what you will find is that even as I say it, did you notice the change in emotions when I did that? I'm courage. How does that feel? And when you do that, we have a lot of psychology research that suggests that your physiology influences your mindset. And that mindset is what is self-esteem, which will ultimately also lead you to achieve more, which will also lead to a better self-esteem. So there's that cycle that we want to aim for. The thing we need to understand is this concept of the winner effect. So what is the winner effect? This is a term from biology which says that an animal is more likely to win if they have a previous recent history of winning. So what that means is winning has a momentum of its own, and it's observed across all animals, like right from mice to humans. We have this sense of, look, if I'm winning, I'm in that sense of momentum, and then I therefore am more likely to win. Even if you don't know what your opponent is, even if the threat or whatever challenge you're facing is hard, if you have a history of winning, a recent history of winning, then you're more likely to win no matter what the challenge you're in. And this is a scientific thing. You can look up the winner effect. And so what this tells us is, once we have that cycle of identity outcome going, and once you start winning in that outcome, that's when you will also have more fuel for your self-esteem. You will naturally have that neuroconcoction, that cocktail of chemicals that you need in order to succeed, in order to win the next thing. So remember that there is a certain momentum to winning, and there's a certain momentum to self-esteem, which also means that if you have lower self-esteem right now, that is changeable, because all you're caught up is in a momentum, which is a bit of a downward spiral. And now equipped with that knowledge and equipped with this action step of informing identity, doing identity-related work, and eventually performing and achieving, now perhaps you can already see that you don't need to think of that as a static thing. You can change your self-esteem. Your self-esteem is changeable. Very closely related to the winner effect is this idea of status. When we end up in a winning streak, our status tends to increase no matter what game we are playing. So let's say if you are playing jiu-jitsu, the reason why people like to win, and win can be defined in many ways, the more you see yourself winning, the more your self-esteem increases, and winning also increases status in your group. And status is shown to have some relationship with how you feel. There's a newsletter article I wrote on this recent paper that was published in Cell, which showed that mice which had a history of winning had a higher status in their pack A, and they showed less symptoms of immobility, which is considered as an animal model for depression in humans. So they showed the animals that were winning were happier, so they were moving more, they were swimming more, that kind of thing. And the one that they forced to lose, the one mouse that they forced to lose, that mouse didn't get the better spot in the cage, that mouse did not swim as much. So there's some tangible proof for we feel better if we have better status. Of course, we should not attach our human worth to that, and that's a completely separate topic of shame, which is covered in a different video. It may come out soon, or it might have come out, I don't know. But status is deeply linked to winning, which is deeply linked to self-esteem. And the next thing you want to understand is having a growth mindset. So growth mindset is this idea that things are not static. So if you watch this video thinking that your self-esteem was unchangeable, or that you're just doomed, or that you're just born to be unworthy and just like that, then that's not true, because self-esteem is a changeable and it's a malleable thing. Like I just described some words, some methods of improving your self-esteem, like working on your identity. So growth mindset is this idea that I and my abilities and my identity are changeable. I can grow. That I was not born cut in a simple singular way, that I was not born in a deterministic way, but things are changeable, and I can take action, I can take education, I can take mentorship and figure out ways to grow. And that's the number one thing if we want to increase our self-esteem, is to first believe that it can change, is to first deeply know that it is malleable, that we are not cut from a different cloth, and no, the world is not doomed against us, but we can work, and we can do this psychological, emotional intelligence work, and self-esteem as a result can be built from it. I'm pretty sure if you take action, then you will notice, even if you do the identity writing exercise, you will notice improvement in your self-esteem. Another exercise I want to throw your way is the practice of writing down your wins. That means that, look, if we all have days, but we forget to notice what went well in that day. What did we do well? So for me, today I had a healthy breakfast. I went for a walk in sunlight. I had a healthy lunch as well. And then I planned these videos. I made these cue cards for you. And I'm now recording this. And once I turn my attention to all of these things that I have done, I immediately feel good about myself. I immediately feel that winner effect building up. So it's not just about objectively winning more. It's not just about winning that match or doing well in that academic score. It's not about those final graded victories that society celebrates, but it's the victories of the day-to-day life that you can notice for yourself, which we oftentimes even fail to notice. We ignore them. And then how can we build self-esteem if just we win that one quarterly prize and that's not even a guarantee that you win that? Duh! Of course our self-esteems would be low. So this practice of daily wins, noticing and writing down daily wins can be a huge boost to our self-esteem and something I invite you to practice. And I'm gonna end this video saying worth comes from birth. I'm gonna hammer this point a lot in all of the videos. Well, not all of the videos, but many of the videos. We can play this game of beauty, or fitness, or status, or money, or looks. And those are fine games to play, in my opinion, if you want to play those. But something to know deeply is that our worth is not fundamentally tied to our fitness in those games. It's not fundamentally tied to the achievement in those games. Life is totally unpredictable, and we need to base our sense of worth not on the victories we are having in the external world, but on the fact that we are humans and that we are all created equal, that we all breathe and we all have feelings, and then there is no discrimination on the very basic level of being human. And the reason why that is important is because, hey, you might be playing a certain game and then life might happen. Like, there is no reason that I might not get hit by a car right now and tomorrow I might not be able to record these videos. And then of course I'm gonna feel bad and my winner effect is gonna drop. But if I want to still feel good about myself and weather life's storms, then I need to base my fundamental sense of worth on something more deeper, something on the fact that I'm just human, and then believe in the fact that worth comes from birth. That's the difference between being ashamed versus just losing. It's fine to feel bad after losing, and that's great. Okay, you can learn better, in fact, and a certain amount of losses or rejections are important to grow, but it should not topple our basic sense of worth. So while I invite and encourage you to play whatever game you want to play and succeed in whatever game you want to play, I would also urge you to remember that worth fundamentally comes from birth, and that will not only help you stay secure in your own body and your own mind, but it will also help us to not judge others if they are not performing. Like, who knows what's going on? Maybe they grew up in a certain upbringing that we don't know about. Maybe they grew up with like extreme crime in their neighborhood, and the fact that they turned out just normal is a miracle. Who knows that? So it might help us also be more compassionate and be more caring and loving for people around us. So those are my tips on how to build self-esteem. I hope they helped you, and may you be happy, may you be fulfilled, and may you win a lot, and may your self-esteem be through the roof.